So again, welcome to today's Business as Unusual webinar series, where we are speaking with industry leaders who are helping us survive and thrive in today's economic climate. My name is Lisa Baining, and I'm one of Red Caffeine's account managers. And for today's session, I'll be your moderator. I'm pleased to have Kathy Steele, founder and principal of Red Caffeine, as well as Rick Curry, Director of Human Resources and Organizational Development at Blistex, as our two featured guests today. We are going to deep dive into revitalizing your hiring practices. All of Rick's great years of experience are going to roll together in today's session as we talk through best practices for hiring, finding senior leaders, how your company brand affects your overall hiring strategy, as well as a few bonus questions as we start looking to diversity and inclusion in the workplace. Today's session is definitely meant to be interactive, so I highly encourage you to start using the chat function. I will be moderating that throughout today's session and adding in questions as we see fit, as well as at the end for Rick to answer as well. And again, as we mentioned earlier, our first 5 registrants for today's session did get a $20 Grubhub voucher to purchase lunch to help us support our restaurants who are continuing to be so hard hit during this pandemic time. So again, congrats to our winners today. I hope you all order lunch, even if you're not attending this live, but please help us support our other small businesses as well. With that, I'd like to turn things over to Kathy and Rick. So good afternoon to both of you and welcome to today's session.
Good afternoon, thank you.
Yes, good afternoon. Thanks, Lisa. I just want to start by just saying a little bit about Red Caffeine. Our mission is really to build badass brands that people want to work with and for. And today we're going to be really talking about how to build a brand that people want to work for. I think it also makes people want to work with you when you've got great people, and super excited to have Rick here to talk about Blistex and his incredible career journey. So Rick, would you just like start off by giving us a little bit more of a lens into, you know, your career, because you've worked for so many interesting organizations and had such a compelling career journey.
Yeah, well, sure. Right now, I work as the HR director and OD director for Blistex. And my responsibilities here include international staffing, employee relations. We have employees in Canada as well. Excuse me, hold on, I'm gonna have to plug in here. Having a problem. Okay, all right, then my computer just went dark. Okay, along with employee relations, total compensation, the health and retirement plans, both the United States and Canada. My background includes a lot of things that HR people get a chance to do if they're really lucky. Like I've had 2 opportunities to start HR departments at separate companies. I've led an employee stock ownership plan at one company. My labor relations experience includes both union and contract negotiations and union avoidance campaigns. I've won 3 of those union avoidance campaigns in Illinois and another one in Minnesota. I've also served as an adjunct instructor at Aurora University for the HRIS Implementation program that they put in place along with their HR MBA program a few years back. But before joining Blistex, most recently I served as the vice president of global HR at a company by the name of Act 2 Jewelry, most people know as Leah Sophia, and created the infrastructure that we had there in HR for employees in Canada, China, Switzerland, Germany, and of course the US. I've served, as you mentioned, I've served in HR in a few Fortune 500 companies, including United Airlines, Hilton Hotels, and Budget Rent-A-Car. I graduated from DePaul University with a bachelor's degree and a master's in organizational development from the University of West Florida in Pensacola. So that's been my background just in a nutshell, but it's I really like what I do in HR, and Blistex is just a great place to be and to get a chance to do all those things that I've done in the past. And we have a great HR team here, which I'll maybe talk about later on. So.
Yes, well, thank you. I love kind of hearing the diverse background of experiences that you've had. It's incredible to think about how many different opportunities lay within being involved in an HR department and as you grew in your career. So a little bit more about Blistex. Can you tell us a little bit about the types of the people you employ a little bit? I think it's you're so well known for some of your products, but I don't know that everybody understands the full scope of what you guys do at Blistex.
Well, our headquarters and manufacturing locations is located here in Oak Brook, and we actually produce the actual products here. Most people think that it's done someplace else. We're actually the only manufacturer in the town of Oak Brook. Oak Brook's not that big, but it's not saying that much. But the city of Oak Brook reminds of that every year we give us our census. But Blistex was established back in 1947. Right now, we have about 65 employees in the Oak Brook area, another 10 employees in Canada. And we've been growing through acquisitions of other products. In addition to the lip balm, we also own Tux, Ivorest, foil, and a few other products that use some of the same materials that we use in the lip balm, believe it or not, I think. But right now we're also selling product in about 80 countries around the world. So we have a very well-established international sales department here. You mentioned the variety of employees we have here. We employ everywhere from machine operators, material packers, to PhDs. We have our research and development facility here. We have about 45 research and development, analytical, and other quality control chemists on our staff. We also have about 4 PhDs on our staff at this point as well.
So
yes,
real cross section of hiring needs. That's a lot of different types of people and experiences, and so great. Yeah, thank you. So kind of to further go into that, having a brand like Blistex has obviously helped, in the hiring process. I imagine, your employment brand is so mission critical today, and how to, really become relatable to the audience segments that you're targeting, and with such a diverse workforce, I imagine that's been an interesting, part of the process in terms of recruiting. But we're going to play a quick video just to kind of demonstrate how you've demonstrated your brand, and then ask you some follow-on questions about it.
Okay.
Our company was founded in 1947, and we've been going strong for over 70 years. We are an independent, family-owned business with our corporate headquarters, manufacturing, and distribution facilities located just outside of Chicago, Illinois. Blistex is best known for our expertise in lip care, and as we've grown, we've added other outstanding consumer healthcare brands such as Odoritors, Stradex, Tux, Kanka, and Ivorest. We've also expanded internationally. Today, our products are sold in over 80 countries. Hello, I'm Justin Arch, Chief Executive Officer of Blistex Inc. I'd like to welcome you and thank you for exploring Blistex as part of your career search.
The job I do on a day-to-day basis is making sure we get product out the door to our customers, ensuring that we have all the components, chemicals, and the equipment to get those products made, produced, and out the door to our customers. When I first started here at Blistex, I was the manager of compounding and production. That position allowed me to really get my hands dirty in Blistex and learning how it operates, and then allowed me to develop in my career through the leadership development program, and then I later became the director of manufacturing.
We really invest a lot of time in our products, creation of products, and even our sourcing of optimal quality ingredients. So we've got a formula put together, we make sure that both formula, final product, raw materials, all pass rigorous inspections and internal testing.
Another bandwidth of internet here and see if that helps us so we can continue. Here, and we'll see if we can get this to play again.
To development program, and then I later became the director of manufacturing.
We really invest a lot of time in our products, creation of products, and even our sourcing of optimal quality ingredients. So once we've got a formula put together, we make sure that both formula, final product, raw materials all pass rigorous inspections and internal testing to ensure their safety and effectiveness for use by our consumers. I started at Blistex as the Regulatory Affairs Coordinator, then was promoted to Specialist, and now currently the Regulatory Affairs Supervisor. I feel like Blistex has really given me the opportunity to help grow my career, and it's really given me a great sense of accomplishment.
Our products have a strong reputation because they work. We've been in the lip care business for over 70 years. Our products are known as being very efficacious. There's a huge product assortment, so when somebody has a particular lip care need, they know they can go to the Blistex section, find something that will suit that need, and they know that it'll work. I started with Blistex as an administrative assistant, and over the past 27 years, I've worked my way up to my current position. I think especially in a marketing world where folks are on a brand for a couple of years and then move on to another company, Blistex allows us to succeed professionally and individually as our careers grow.
My team, it's all about.
So the video is a little bit longer, but in the interest of time today, we'll do that. But please know we will share the rest of the video in our follow-up email.
Okay.
Yeah, and what I love, Rick, about this sort of viewpoint or lens into the employee experience is that it talks so much about the pride of the product that you deliver, but also, about opportunity, being able to start in a manufacturing career and start sort of on the ground floor, getting my hands dirty, but now I'm in this more senior position. So can you speak to how, leveraging your employment brand has helped in your recruiting and engagement practices at Blistex?
Yes, well, it starts with having a good brand and a good reputation within the consumer products industry, which we do. As I meet people outside of the company, we have a reputation for being a very well-known product, a high-quality product, which we are. But a lot of people think that we're much larger than we are, and so that helps us. But when it comes to branding, it's that brand recognition carries forward to the recruitment process. As you can see in the video, we have a culture of hard work, excellence in our rewards and recognitions for employees of the employees that we have on hand right now. We have about 101 people that have been here more than 10 years, and another 50 people that have been with us more than 20 years. And that, I think that speaks to the idea that, once people join the company and they see that there's hard work, but there's recognition and reward here, that makes people want to stay with us. And when it comes to recruiting, even in the recruitment field, we have a reputation of being a place that you want to aspire to, and our people are sought after. So that helps us with our recruiting. Through the pandemic, we've kept recruiting. We've added 10 additions to staff in this calendar year. And we're getting less applicants, but we're still getting quality people and filling our job openings.
Well, I think, anybody that has to vet through thousands of applications knows how important it is to get that right fit candidate pool and to, not spend a ton of time looking at people that are not right fit. So I think that's, such a win in when you're scorecarding your effectiveness from a branding standpoint and a recruiting standpoint, just knowing that your job descriptions, the way you demonstrate your brand visibly to employees and recruits is telling that appropriate stories so that people that are applying really want to work at your organization and be a part of your culture. Talk a little bit about the culture fit piece. What would, you have such a high quality product. Is that sort of filtered into the type of culture you're also building?
Yes, we consider ourselves a learning organization and a continuous improvement organization. We have a number of programs, one of them called our Winner Circle, where we reward employees for coming up with ideas, both on product procedures. Of course, our research and development department is constantly focused on new procedures, new products. But we really focus on making sure that we have excellence in our products, in our work. We have a very unique culture here. We work hard. We reward people. You can see that people stay with us, but it's not for everybody. When I joined the company, I realized this is one of the best managed mid-sized companies that I've experienced, and there's a focus on best practices. There's a focus on learning. There's a focus on continuous improvement, and I didn't expect that in a company this size.
It's awesome. I think it's so hard to be able to sort of bring that big brand enterprise kind of experience to your staffing strategy in smaller organizations. So it really does show up in the amount of time people stay in their jobs at your organization. You're obviously providing a really clear growth path and a lot of learning opportunities for people along the way. So I also, I think we forget, I was fortunate to meet some of the founding family members earlier in my career, but it's a family-owned business. And
Yes.
That brand perception of you being such a lot larger organization than you actually are, but also that you're a family-owned organization. So talk a little bit about that family dynamic.
Well, right now, the third generation, Justin Ark, as you saw in the video, is our chief executive officer, and I report to Justin. His father, Dave, is the chairman of the board of directors, and he's in the office a couple of days a week. In fact, his office is right next door to mine, so I get a chance to say hello to him every once in a while. But I think, from something you'll learn in your MBA classes is that the third generation of a private-owned company is the hardest one to get past, to keep the family members interested in the company. And this is the third privately owned company I've worked for. What's unique about Blistex is that the third generation is very much engaged with Justin being here as our CEO. We do have a separate person who is a president, another person who is a chief operating officer. As Justin received his education, he actually went out to work for some other consumer packaged product companies early in his career before coming back here as a vice president of development. So he got an idea. He got an idea of what's happening outside of Blistex before coming back to Blistex, and really getting to learn and eventually manage this company. So I think that speaks well of the family's philosophy for one, continuing the family in the business, but teaching and having that person learn something besides Blistex, and it's really worked for us.
I love it. Yeah. And I mean, it's so, you're so right. I mean, we work so much with manufacturers, and it is so fun to see the generational changes and what, each generation brings to the table, but it is challenging to keep that, inspiration and that passion through multi-generational businesses. So I think that ability to go outside the organization and have learning experiences was probably a really critical part of having him come back and be a successful new leader. So let's talk a little bit about senior leadership recruiting, because it is a little different, and you have honed a process around recruiting for senior leaders. Can you step us through that process? I believe you even actually hired your boss through this process, right?
Yes, I did. Okay. No, when we were talking in the past, we talked about some of the 12 steps I put together for recruiting senior people. I've recruited vice presidents in some of those companies that I mentioned, country managers for some of the other companies that I've worked for. And our president here at Blistex is a retiree. So over the past year, I led a project to find our new president, which heads up our marketing, sales, and product development department. And some of the steps, and I'll combine some of the steps here, but I think some of the important things we look at is we started out by, and I say we, even though this was my project as a leader, I worked very closely with Justin, the CEO, our manager of OD and talent management, and with a lot of input from the C-suite of people, all of our vice presidents here. We revised the job description, and we looked at our company culture in a way that we can write down what is our company culture, because we have to be able to define our company culture to the executive search firm that we eventually hired, of the type of person we're looking for. We want that person to have an impact in the company, but we also want that person to thrive in this environment as well. So that was an important first step. We did a very thorough search of executive search firms, because we did a nationwide search for this particular person. We actually vetted about 12 executive search firms. We want to focus on the firms that were working in our industry, new good people within this industry, and had a good track reputation. So we looked at a bunch of search firms, what their hires were, how many of those hires actually are still where they are, and things like that. We did end up with a search firm out of New York that we were very happy with. But that's important, having the right description of the job, having the culture defined. So when we go to that search firm, we can say, here's what we're looking for. This is Blistex. Here's what we do, and here's how we work. The next step was benchmarking the job description. Our current president, or our past president, had been with us about 26 years. The job description was old. We wanted to know what was the current market for total compensation package for this person. What does base look like? What does short-term disability look like? What is short-term incentives, and what does long-term incentives looks like for this type of role? And if we happen to bring somebody from another state, what does that relocation package look like? So that was a exercise that Blistex had not been through for many, many years. So that was an important step as well. We also had to define the assessment process. What does that look like? We used, we know we're going to be doing interviewing and looking at the person's background and their resume and things like that. But we also incorporated a battery of tests, as well as psychological associations. And we had to find an organization that could do that at that level. We used some other testing tools on a regular basis for our middle management and professional people, but we wanted to do something at a higher level. So we found an organization by the name of Psych Associates, who does that type of testing and psychological evaluations. And that turned into, some of our top candidates went through that particular process. I'll say it to be nice about it. It's a process. And, we ended up having conversations with those psychologists to tell us about this person. What do they see? What does that person like to do? What are the personal characteristics related to the job? And how does that compare with what we were looking for at Blistex? Because this person is going to have we want this person to have an impact, but we want this person also to maintain our culture. And like I said before, we want this person to thrive in this environment. So we got through that process. The executive search firm found the candidates for us to talk to, and we probably talked to about 12. people that made it through the background and the resume review, and we talked to a number of people. And all the while, we're thinking of not only does this person have the right background, does this person look like a good fit? I mean, that's very important. We want to make sure that, like I said, that person will thrive when they're here. Another important part of a senior job search is the communications plan. Who do you tell that this is happening? I started the process in June of 2019. In November, we told the C-suite, the vice presidents and directors, that the president was retiring. We're engaged a search firm to find another president. And so that happened in the November timeframe. We looked at internal people too. We said, if you're interested, now's the time to think about that and let Justin know if you were interested in that process. Toward the first part of the year, we communicated that we followed up with those C-suite people to ask them, their interests, their input, and ensure them that they would be part of the interviewing process as well. So communication of a program like that is very important. It's continue on in the communications process. We did not tell the general employee population until we had a town hall meeting in June of this year, when we finally told everyone that we had found someone and this is what the transition is going to look like over the next several months. But going back to the part I was mentioning about the benchmarking of the job description and the total compensation package, now we have to negotiate the job offer for this person. What is, we take into consideration the base compensation for that person. We look at the compensation for the direct reports for that person to make sure that there is some distancing there. We have a short-term incentive program that runs continually at Blistex, and we have to determine what is that going to look like for the new president, and then the long-term incentive. What are those type of things that will apply to this long-term incentive? Where do we want to be 2 years, 3 years from now as a company? How does that particular person, the new president, help us get there? And what incentive are we going to tie to that? So that was the number of conversations that that Justin and I had, and even got the executive search firm involved in that process as well. So, and once we got through all those processes, it was the onboarding, which was critical. That when the person comes into the company, they're meeting with all the right people that they need to meet with in those first few days. Their documentation and paperwork is taken care of. Even the president has to take a drug screen, so he didn't get a pass because he was the president. So, and we go through that process. I guess the more interesting thing is that I do a lot of hand holding through that process myself. I don't normally get involved with the onboarding. We have 2 people that's totally dedicated to recruitment at our company, and another HR generalist who does a lot of the paperwork. But I pretty much went through this process with our new president, and he joined us in August of this year.
So, I mean, I love it. I think it, there's so many things that you would pull through to any buddy that you're recruiting, but I do feel like just because of the level of the position, as well as the discreetness in doing a search like this. But I loved, how you thought about the internal impact it was going to have on your workforce, and getting buy-in from that management layer that was going to need to be make it or break it for a new president. If there was a lot of friction there, that would be a huge challenge to overcome, and that you were marrying up the real cultural needs that you had of the organization, but as well as the business needs, like what was the right characteristics that were going to take your organization, forward with this role. So thank you for stepping through this. And but kind of thinking about those steps in terms of how you hire for any role, because I love the phrase you used when we were talking a few months ago about hiring Packers to PhDs. You know, you mentioned you do use a lot of these same steps in your hiring processes anyways. Is there anything that you take out beyond the executive search firm or some of the extensive psych evaluations that you used in this process?
Yes, with all the other positions that we normally hire here, we still do a good job with background checks. We're reviewing resumes, interviewing people. We have a applicant tracking system that's out on the internet, and that feeds us a lot of resumes from people. We don't normally do the psychological association and the more higher level battery of tests for the people that we bring in. But we use Wonderlic, we use the Colby, and that would apply to any of our professional and management positions. And, you know, our head of recruitment, the manager of OD, the hiring manager for that particular role, maybe some of the other managers in that department, you know, they'll have a conversation, they'll look at all those factors before making a hiring decision. I mean, and something like a Colby test or a Wonderlic test is not a make it or break it, but it becomes one of the factors in the hiring decision. So that's a big difference. And the communications program process is different too. I mean, yes, we went, you know, several months before anyone outside of the committee knew that we were searching for someone. But on the other hand, when we're doing other searches, we post those searches. We don't even interview someone from the outside until that posting's been up for 10 days. And we have a very nice referral program. So those are some of the difference with some of the other positions that we recruit for.
Yeah, thank you. I thank you for sharing so many great tips for thinking about the overall recruiting process. Agree that there's just so much great technology. Is there anything else that's kind of shifted in your recruiting process since COVID? Are you doing a lot more virtual meetings, or have you done anything new since March?
Oh, absolutely. We have moved to a nearly 100% virtual interviewing process. And, you know, when I think about the post-pandemic role, I think it's going to look a lot like it does now, with maybe without the virus, that we're still going to be doing a lot of video interviewing, even local people, because it's we're finding out that it's effective, it's time saving. You know, we bring people in for maybe that final round of interviewing. We'll bring them in. We want to show them, you know, the building, the property, and things like that. But that's been something that's very different for us. We have, and I'm kind of telling on ourselves, but we've kind of resisted the work from home over the last few years as that has become popular. But now, since like April, we've been able to see that large amounts of people working from home, we can maintain our productivity, we can maintain our connectivity, and that's working for us. But we were forced into that world to see that. But I've also, since we've started that in April, you know, I've coached managers on managing people remotely. I've coached employees on managing themselves and their work environment remotely. We've provided them with some training materials, but that's been the biggest change.
Yeah, having had a lot of flexibility in our workforce prior, but having, you know, obviously I'm at home right now, more flexibility. I think this has just been a shift for all of us. Recruiting completely remotely, I agree, it's been great, some of the effectiveness, but, you know, onboarding remotely, it's posed a lot of challenges. I don't think most organizations, unless that was your way of work, really had this buttoned up, and we've all had to really accelerate how we do both recruiting and onboarding, just based on what we're faced with right now. Lisa, I see some really great questions coming in. Do you want to give Rick a few of those questions?
Yeah, one of them actually, Rick, a fellow business in Oak Brook, would like to connect with you. So I'll make sure that we get you and Lisa, great name, connected towards the end. But another
Sure.
one of our individuals, Marty, asked, Rick, when you were mentioning about the testing, so you do the psych assessments, are you also testing for anything like an agility mindset or an agility-based assessment tool? They've got a personal interest in that, so wanted to know if you had anything about agility or adaptability as far as when you're looking for leaders or just another employee to help fill out the Blistex family.
Yes. For the like I said, the professional and management people, we do use the Wonderlic and the Kolbe. The Wonderlic is more of a mental agility test.
Okay.
The Kolbe is more of what we call a cultural and working style fit test, because we do a test with that particular manager, supervisor, department head to see how they function in the workplace, and we compare that to the person that we're interviewing with their Kolbe test. So we are looking at that. But for the senior person, the president, we use the Thurston test of mental alertness, the Watson-Glaser critical thinking test, and leadership opinion questionnaire, and the dimensional management matrix. I had to write those down to make sure in case somebody asked me what they were. So.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, there is so many options out there, but it's nice to see what people are using and really understand how they're using it, because I do feel like there's a lot of tests out there, but people aren't really filtering it through how they're matching up what they're seeing in those surveys and that data to how somebody's performing in the first 90 days or how somebody's performing over time, and how do you build out a team that's got some diverse skill sets and strengths.
Yeah, that's very important what you said, that we do need to look at those tests in terms of how the folks are going to perform. We had a little bit of a dilemma as we were searching for the president. We had a lot of good candidates, a lot of people that could have come in here and did this job and did a very good job. But one of the dimensions that I mentioned is looking at that person's style, their way of making an impact, their consideration for the people that they work with. And that's very important in our culture. We are a hard driving company, but we're very employee oriented. So there were some candidates that I looked at that said that candidate can do a good job, but that candidate is so hard charging that they're going to rub people the wrong way. I mean, that's scaled down version of what that conversation was like. So that's a very important concern for us. So, and to your point of how we use the test that we do use, how do we factor it into our hiring decision?
Absolutely.
Rick, as a clarifying question on your last comment, so all of the tests that you mentioned, everything from the Watson to the Kolbe on through, do you use all of those tests when you're looking for a senior leader, or are you kind of picking and pulling specific ones?
The Watson and the Kolbe, the Wonderlic and the Kolbe is used for our professional jobs, our management jobs here. The list that I read that was performed by the Psych Associates organization, that was strictly what we did for the president's candidates.
Okay.
Great, thank you. So I want to make sure we're talking about really engagement of employees. I think that's one of the most important or one of the highly valued things that we hear in terms of the laundry list of things that employees want from an employer. So can you talk about how you've approached your learning and development program at Blistex? Because it's clear that people are sticking. Tell us a little bit about the secret sauce that keeps them engaged and being a part of your organization.
The secret sauce is called LEP and PEP, which is our Leadership Enhancement Program and our Professional Enhancement Program. The LEP program is a 12-module management development program that we've we purchased this program years ago, but we've customized it for Blistex, and it has modules in it like coaching and counseling and leadership communications, and there's even a short module in there for employment law that managers should be aware of. All of our management employees that have a management title, supervisor title, director title are going through the LEP program. We delivered in about six 4-hour modules over a few months. There's pre-work, there's the courses, and there's after work, because we want to make sure that the person comes into class as I don't deliver the classes, our OD manager does. We come into the classes, we know what that person's supervisor has identified as development areas for that particular person. We make sure that we focus on that in the class, and we try to get feedback from them in the class. But there's also what we call after work, where that participant is talking about in writing what they've learned, what they've improved on over the last 30 days. And their supervisor is also doing the same thing of saying what this person has demonstrated from participating in the class. And it doesn't stop there. You know, the OD manager and myself consider ourselves the people who will always support those folks based on the LEP learning factors that we deliver in the class. The professional enhancement program is a little bit scaled down version of that, less of the leadership components in there in the training as well. We have other classes, some of them that we've developed internally for team building, specifically for some of the groups in our particular departments around the company. But we're also looking at a more formalized version of what we call, mentoring employees, developing employees, and turning it into more of a mentoring as a metric. What we're designing is that some of our higher level department heads and directors will have one of their annual goals to mentor a high potential person, develop an individual development plan for that person, individual training program for that person, to the point that by the end of that performance year, that person is ready for promotion. And that is part of the department head's short-term incentive plan. So it becomes more formal at that point. But I think we do a good job of mentoring people. You can see in the video all of those folks who have been with us for years and grown. The lady who was the supervisor of regulatory and documentation is now the manager of regulatory and documentation as of a few months ago. It's an important part of our Blistex culture here. The growth, the mentoring, the continuous development of our employees. When we increase the competencies of our middle management, that gives senior management more opportunity to work on strategy and execution. So that's important that we increase the competencies of those people in middle management. They're a better person. The department is a better department. The company is better.
I love it. It is really, it's kudos, because I know you are still a relatively small company. And I think that's the most difficult for our mid-market businesses to invest in employee development. And it sounds like, you've really got some great programs in place to help elevate people. And it was like, it's coming kind of late to the mentoring experience that myself, I've just been I think I've advanced so much just by being mentored and having peer relationships that elevate my thinking. So it's we've even found unique opportunities to get mentoring outside of our organization to help ladder up or level up some of our team, because it's not always possible within a smaller workforce to tap into mentorship. But I don't want to I want to ask about what you guys are doing in terms of one of the most hot button topics right now, the last few years, about diversity, equity, and inclusion. everything from gender pay to more diversity and opportunity in the workforce for diverse candidates, all the way to like the ages of our workforce, from very young people to people, staying well past where they had and being vibrant contributors. So talk to me a bit about this is a really big question, but give me a few nuggets about what you guys are doing at Blistex on those topics.
Well, when I think about diversity, I think not only of the demographics of people, the different backgrounds that come here, but also the age differences. We do affirmative action plan each year because we're a government contractor. And one thing that, many advantages to that, but it also gives me an opportunity to look at the demographics and the diversity within this company. And we have a very good, diverse group at all levels. If there's anything we're missing, is probably some females in the skilled labor area. So if you know any lady forklift drivers or lady mechanics, we'd be happy to talk to them. But we have, all through our management group, we have people from different backgrounds, males and females. So we're doing a good job there. That hasn't been an issue for us. And even with, the things that are going on now, we haven't felt the need. And we've had a conversation. I've had a conversation with the executive committee being the president, the CEO, and the chief operating officer. And we've had an honest conversation about what do we do about the diversity issues, or do we start some type of program? And we just didn't feel like that there's nothing that we needed to do specific for diversity. We do advertise through a lot of super job boards around the United States. And we do specialize in some advertisements for some diversity groups. Again, some of the female professional groups, but we're doing very well in terms of diversity when it comes to various backgrounds. When it comes to age, and I know that's another hot button, but I think the work ethic of people at various ages is more important than the influence they might get from their generation. We have people here at every generation that you can think of in this company. Obviously, we've got some long-term people. We've got people here that have been with us for 20, 30 years and beyond that. We have a very active internship program that we work with the University of Elmhurst University. We've had 7 interns over the last few years. We've hired 2 of those interns. There's been times when we've made offers to professional people a month before they graduated from college. So we do have a big diversity in age here. And I think if they've got the right work ethic and they understand our culture coming in the door, we seem to do okay with that. There doesn't seem to be an issue as well. I mean, we've been, a lot of the younger people like technology. We've got all the technology they need. We've got, the ability to do conference calls and VPN. They can be anywhere and do their job. That's really not a challenge for our company, for our people. So I think we didn't feel that we needed to do something specific for diversity here. I mean, when it comes to the compensation issues, we're required to do a biannual study of compensation between males and females, which is a government program that's been around for a while, and we test well there too.
That's great. I honestly, it still astounds me. I was just having a conversation yesterday with somebody about her difference in compensation from her male counterpart, and it's really shocking that these things still exist. But it's if you're not mandated, I do think there's a lot more flexibility in how you view your entire hiring practices. So I want to give some time to ask some questions. Is there anything, Lisa, that's come up?
Yes, actually, we've had some great questions. And Lynn, actually, Rick, as you started talking about mentoring, was like, I'm wondering how they use mentoring in their organization. So it was perfect timing on that. But wanted to go back to that mentoring and development plan segment. So the first question I want to ask is from Mike, and he wanted to know, where do you have all of these personal development plans either posted or stored? How are you keeping track of them, especially if you do have 460 plus employees?
Well, it's multifaceted. We have a formalized performance management program that we do at 90 days, 6 months for some positions, but every position is done at least once a year. That information, those performance appraisal documents come into HR. If he's talked about the logistics, so they come into HR. If the performance appraisal is not reviewed or written by a vice president, then I read them myself. So I read about 80% of performance appraisals that are done every year, and I'm looking at making sure that the essay part of the performance appraisal supports the rating that they gave. And if not, then I'll have a conversation with that manager. We also have a formalized individual development plan that can be done in conjunction with the performance appraisal. I receive those, I give those to the OD manager, who will work with that employee and their manager to make sure that those training requirements, we make a way for those training requirements to get completed, whether they're inside or outside the company. Okay.
So are you using any type of tracking software? Like, does your HRIS have like modules, or is it more of a manual process?
Interesting that you would say that. We have ADP Workforce Now. We bought all the bells and whistles, and we have the performance management module, and we're going through a beta test right now.
Okay.
So we're working with one department to go through that entire process, that I just outlined. So once we complete the beta test, I would say in later in part of 2021, we'll have the entire company on the online performance management system that we already own.
Fantastic.
Sounds great. And then going back to that too, knowing again, you've got your performance plans there. We have your LEP and your PEP. And maybe we missed this, so I wanted to reiterate from one of the questions. Is there anything in any of your programs to help your team leaders with their ability to adapt and ability to communicate with either their employees, their peers, their superiors in the organization?
Yes, the LEP program has about 12 modules, 12 training modules, and some of those are including leadership styles. Some of those modules talk about communications, communications both with your department members, with peers, and so forth. So we've covered it. I don't have the list in front of me, but it's a very diverse group of training modules as part of the LEP program. So we are getting to, I think, all the basics for developing managers, as a professional, as a leader, as a person who should be aware of some of the employment laws that affects employees as well. So.
Oh, thank you, Rick. And, just to round out as we move towards the end of today's session, which I realize we're nearing the 1 p.m. Central Time hour, but I think our time has gone so quickly. Kathy had echoed, great info, everyone. I'm hearing this in so many other areas from other top companies, the use of mentoring, the assessments, the routine leadership training. So kudos to Rick and Blistex for leading the charge and sharing your info with us today.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Kathy, any final questions from you before we move to the close?
Rick, what's one thing that you're thinking about for 2021? Is there what's in the future plan for next year?
Well, I mentioned the moving our performance management to 100% technology based. That's going to be a major project for us, as well as in conjunction with that, the mentoring as a metric project. This is something that our new president is in favor of, and we've had some conversation about it. And those are going to be some good major changes for this company. That's where the OD part of my job comes in. So.
Fun. That's the fun stuff. So
Yes, it is. So
well, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time today. You shared some great tips that I think everybody, really relatable stuff, regardless of the size of business, that we can all kind of take back and to our own organization. So I appreciate so much having you today.
thank you again for inviting me.
Thank you. And for those of you that have questions, I saw one pop up in the chat as we're moving it to the end of the hour. You can actually reach out to Rick. We've got his contact info there, either at his rickcurry@blistex.com, or you can also connect with him on LinkedIn. So I'm sure as all of us take in all of this great information, and even though, Rick, I've gotten to interview you now a few times, I still have 3 pages of notes from today's session. So thank you so much. All right,
Well, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad I can help.
So hopefully, again, too, if you think of those questions after you've thought through all of the great content Rick shared today, please reach out to him, or you can also connect with us at Red Caffeine as well. As we look ahead, in 2 weeks is our next Business as Unusual webinar, November 5th, featuring Tom Lefebvre, president of Anchor Harvey. And when I talk about this year, and I'm going to use this year in particular, and everything that has happened, we're using Tom and Anchor Harvey in 2 weeks as a living case study. This company has really looked and pivoted their business so that this year, when a lot of us are, hoping to stay flat, or maybe in some instances a little bit less, I don't want to say failing, but we've all felt struggles, Anchor Harvey is actually up 25%, and they've really invested a lot in changing the way that their business works. So we're going to interview Tom in 2 weeks, and he is going to share, basically open the toolbox of what they've been doing and how you too can implement that at your company. So you can go to redcaffeine.com, click on the Business as Unusual webinar series to register. We'll also have the link in the follow-up email containing the recording from today's session, so you can register right there as well. For those of you, if this is your first time attending Business as Unusual, we hope you enjoyed today's content. If you have any questions about Red Caffeine or what's upcoming, you can connect with us at connect@redcaffeine.com.